You're listening to the Complete Human podcast, hosted by co-founders Janna Breslin and Evan DeMarco. We share authentic conversations about wellness, longevity, personal growth, and biooptimization, along with inspiring stories that encourage community and social responsibility. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Get the crystals. I've got one in my butt.
A crystal butt plug.
Yeah.
Wow.
Amethyst.
So tell me about the healing powers of a crystal butt plug.
Well, I've never been constipated.
Okay, that's good. So it's healing.
It's healing, right? You know, you're really charging that root chakra.
So charged.
So charged.
So charged.
So charged.
Charged and ready to go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Complete Human podcast with your hosts,
Janna Breslin
and Evan DeMarco. Now, we've started to really kind of unpack what we consider the four principles of being a complete human, or the complete human journey, and that begins with mental fortitude, transitions into physical health, and that kind of brings us to one of the topics that we want to get into today. Now, interestingly enough, this is kind of controversial, and it's controversial for a number of reasons, and so we're going to apologize. That's not true. I'm not speaking for you. I'm going to apologize
for yourself.
For myself, because there's a high probability that I'm going to offend pretty much everybody in the known universe today. And I don't do that intentionally, but I do that with the recognition that as we really talk about spirituality, there is a deeply held personal conviction that a lot of people bring to this, and our opinions are just our opinions, so let's start with that. But as we really start to look at some of the things that we've uncovered in our practice and our research, I think that it really kind of flies in the face of a lot of the things that are common in organized religion. And so our goal here is not to bash organized religion. Our goal really is to outline some of the things that our research has unfolded, some of other things that our research has really brought to light, and see and share with you guys how that's impacted our daily practices on this quest for becoming more of a complete human. So I guess without further ado, let's talk about spirituality.
Yeah, spirituality.
Spiritual abundance.
It's very, very, I don't know, I feel like it's broad, but also not at the same time. Like there's so much that encompasses spirituality, but for example, this morning on my Instagram story, I posted a Q&A asking, what is spirituality to you and how do you exercise that? I kind of wanted to just get a feel of what people were thinking, saying, how they do it, what their thoughts are. And after kind of scrolling through, I think I had this was just a few hours ago, I've had like a few hundred, submissions or whatever. And the general consensus that I got was that we are all connected to something greater than ourselves. Mm-hmm. So
now here's, and I think that when we look at the definitions, the very definitions of spirituality versus religion, spirituality seems to really play in that part. It's not this, I pray, I believe in God, I believe in Buddha, I believe in Brahma, I worship Vishnu, or any of these organized religious concepts. It's that we are all part of something bigger than ourselves, and we're connected almost energetically. Mm-hmm. Now, I think where we kind of want to take a step back is let's look back in time at religion. Right, and I think religion has always played an integral part in our lives. As we crawled out from underneath the rocks and we sat around, a fire, grunting and scratching, we needed to answer some of the fundamental questions that I think continue to permeate us as human beings, time and time again. Why are we here? Where do we come from? So the answer to that, in my opinion, and I think again, this is just my opinion, so let's stick with that, is that religion was oftentimes something that man concocted so that they didn't feel so alone in the universe, right? Because you're out there looking up in the stars and you realize, like, we're nothing, we're insignificant. So how do we feel more connected? And religion was always that way of creating that connection. But has science caught up to the idea that maybe religion in its archaic view doesn't hold the same place that it once did? And we're not here to bash people's beliefs, mm-hmm. right? Beliefs are beliefs, and we absolutely applaud everyone's beliefs and cherish everyone's right to believe what they believe. Mm-hmm. But when we start talking about spirituality, I think in the context of how do we energetically vibrate with other people? What does the quantum realm look like? How does quantum physics apply to spirituality? How are we able to manifest things? I think the conversation of religion really needs to be reevaluated in the context of how has science really merged with spirituality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it seems like there's emerging research every day. I mean, people are trying to do the research, trying to, figure out what are we? What are we made of? What's out there? I mean, we're watching that show Mars right now, and it just blows your mind because you really realize how kind of, insignificant we are, and that we are part of something much greater than ourselves.
Let's okay, here's a good question for you.
Okay.
Why are we here? Where do we come from? Where do we go when we die?
I don't know. I mean, in that is the mystery. I think a lot of people have differing opinions on this, but I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. and that is the beauty of spirituality, is it doesn't say for certain what happens, right? We're not born out of, I think spirituality, has this, I have this belief, I'm not going to push this on anybody else. I have this belief that we're not sent here by God or a God. When we die, we're not beholden to some set of beliefs based off of fear that when we die, we don't get to spend eternity with that God. Instead, we go to someplace south, which is kind of warm, and hang out with some bad people, which actually that kind of sounds like Mexico, right?
It's not a bad place.
No. I mean, is the tequila good?
Right.
And that all of the cosmos, the heaven and the earth, were all created by this omnipotent being. And I think when you really take a step back and you look at some of the challenges with religion and the way that people approach it, right? Like, well, first of all, the Bible, Christianity, was written a long time ago in a language that most people don't even fucking speak anymore. So how is it that we even know that that's true, right? And like all of these stories. But why is it that we still, let me put it this way. If I tell my daughter that she's not going to get dessert unless she acts a certain way, is she acting a certain way because she's spiritually, that's what's in her nature, right? That's how she wants to act. That's how she feels connected to the rest of the universe. Or is she acting that way because she wants ice cream? And so I often find that the risk-reward concept, or the reward concept of this eternal life with Christianity, takes away from that personal connection that we feel towards another human being or towards our place in the universe by saying, well, I have to act this way, not that I choose to act this way.
Well, that brings up a great point, is accountability, right? So is it bad to hold yourself accountable and be accountable to yourself and to others because of God or because of your beliefs and your principles and your values? So I don't know, it kind of makes me think, as long as you're being accountable, is it bad?
I don't know. It is that's a great question, right? And we don't have the answer to that. I think the counter argument to that is, are you accountable for the right reasons? Are you accountable to yourself because that's what you fundamentally believe? Or are you accountable to a higher power because you believe that there's a reward at the end of the journey?
Right. Are you aligned with your own beliefs? Are you aligned in holding yourself accountable because of your own principles and values? And do your principles and values truly line up to your spiritual or religious beliefs?
True. I don't know. And but I think where religion kind of goes off the rails for me is this idea that when you're accountable to a higher power because of a reward, are you operating at the highest vibrational capacity? Are you aligned with yourself and then subsequently spiritually and energetically aligned with other people? And what we find, and this is the science, right? This is the great thing about the science is that when we vibrate with another person on that same, frequency, on that same wavelength, and then we start to incorporate other people that vibrate like this, there's this amplification process that takes place, right? We elevate the energy, we elevate the conversations about human potential. We start to really see change. And can that happen in a congregation? Absolutely, right? Can a group of people get together with a belief system that allows them to focus on something greater than themselves and accomplish that, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we take a step back and we start to look at some of the fundamental flaws of religion, then, there's a little bit of a rubber meets the road problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess what we wanted to really talk about, right, is in our journey of this complete human process and really starting to look at some of the great thinkers of our time or throughout history, some of the great minds and some of the people that are really leading these spiritual crusades, we kind of keep coming back to this idea that religion doesn't necessarily play an integral part in that. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what it is that you do to kind of culture or nurture this spiritual abundance. And I keep doing this. I feel like I'm, fondling my boobs. It's just one of those days, guys.
It's the crystal butt plug you have in right now. It's just really amplifying the energy here. So you're just groping the energy.
Groping the energy. Yes, I'm groping it. It's great.
If you're watching the YouTube, you'll see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Evan in his hands right now.
I'm Italian. I speak with my hands.
Right. Right.
It's Janna Breslin here. As most of you know, I grew up playing sports which required lots of intensive training. A couple years ago, I switched to CrossFit style workouts, and let's just say my body has taken an absolute beating over the years. I remember waking up after heavy workouts, barely being able to get out of bed. I always added fish oil to my daily regimen for overall wellness and to help combat the post-workout muscle soreness, but my joints and muscles would still be sore for days. I needed something more than just omega-3 fish oil. That's why I take Complete Human PRM Response. This daily super supplement helps my body resolve inflammation quickly so I can live pain-free and keep training. I've been taking it for a while now and my workouts are better, my recovery is faster, and overall I just feel great. I know we all need a good omega-3 product, and PRM Response is the next generation in omega-3 supplementation with unique pre-resolving mediators that help resolve inflammation quickly so we can get back in the game of life. Head on over to store.completehuman.com to try it 20% off with the code PRM20.
Well, I got, spirituality and spiritual abundance to me is, it's greater than me. I mean, I think, and I kind of have to go back to one of the topics we talked about prior was our ayahuasca journey. I know that was something for me. I feel like I had a kind of spiritual connection to the world, to people, to my environments, to just, I don't know, the universe as a whole prior to that. But I think going to Peru, having an experience like that, I recognize that there's so much more that we don't necessarily understand or know yet. And that was an experience in my life where I thought, oh my gosh, there's a lot that we don't know here. And I'm so curious to understand more about this. I mean, even after the ceremony, hiking throughout Peru, like the rest of the week, I felt so connected to everyone that we were with, like the whole group we were with.
All the plants.
The plants.
The ones you kept touching.
I love the plants. It was great. I mean, just being in the mountains of Peru and being able to feel so connected to something so grand, so much greater than us. And it's humbling because you I don't know, for me, I love to be outside. I mean, for me, it's more, meditation, being outside. Music helps me as well, but especially being outside with nature, that I find that truly grounds me and makes me feel connected to something greater than myself. And I mean, that's also helped me through a lot of challenges in my life. So I think it's so important to find something that we are connected to. And I recognize that's different for each person. Sometimes, maybe that's juggling crystals, inside for some people, maybe.
Or a crystal butt plug.
Or a crystal butt plug like you.
Yeah.
And, we all can have a different way of connecting spiritually within ourselves and then to others and to the globe. I mean, it's complex, and who knows? I mean, I'm still in my journey to kind of understand and figure this out as well. I mean, I think that's also part of the journey is to read about this stuff, to educate yourself, to like really go deep and find what are you connected with, what makes you tick, and what spiritually makes you feel fulfilled. And I don't know if there's ever an end to that.
No, and I think that's one of the challenges with organized religion is that there is an end to this. It's if you follow this set of rules, right? If it's the Bible, the Quran, the whatever, that's all you need. But as we found when we've started to interview some people that I would consider are really, really spiritual, right? Some of the spiritual leaders of the world, that don't really hold that mantle, right? That's not like they're on Sunday morning, television, asking for your tithing.
Yeah.
These are just really hyper spiritual people, and they really focus on the journey, right? They don't have all of the answers. It's that constant need to be curious and to constantly connect to the universe and question everything, rather than saying, well, this is the life that I'm going to live.
Right.
And if you don't mind me asking, this is kind of a personal question, is you came from a long relationship where you lived with someone who kind of had that approach to things. And so you really kind of got to see that archaic Judeo-Christian life.
Right.
And then since then, you've really seemed to emerge into a much more spiritual realm of your own.
Yeah, just a little backstory on that. I did not grow up religious, but I did marry someone who was a strong Christian, and I went to church all the time. I did my own Bible studies. I read passages in the Bible. I had my devotionals and everything, like the whole thing. I tried to submerge myself in that to understand and give it a try, give it a whirl. There was always something within me that it was conflicting and it wasn't always connecting.
Why is that?
I mean, that's a great question. It's just I'm a natural skeptic. I think I love to ask questions. I love to know more. I love to know why. And I had a lot of questions that I wasn't necessarily able to get answers to. And that bothered me. And I understand that's the faith aspect, right? Like, oh, just have faith.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that. But, I think, it was challenging being in that situation because I did feel like I wasn't living within what I truly believed. I tried to do it and it just wasn't working. But, you just kind of keep going to church because that's what your significant other wants to do. And, I think there's a give and take in relationships. I think that's natural. And yeah, it was challenging. Within that relationship, I was told that meditation was a fad, and, I didn't feel necessarily super comfortable talking about spirituality because I knew that would be shut down because it's like, oh, it's just woo woo, get your crystals, like all of that stuff. And so I feel, yeah, it's an interesting topic, and it's hard. I mean, especially, and I was going to ask or kind of bring this topic up as well, but like, how important is it to surround yourself with others that you have similar beliefs, you have similar principles and values, and then if you're able to amplify that,
well, I think that's
what can you accomplish, right?
That is the most important part of our existence, right? We are a people that seeks community. We are a social species, for the most part. And so we constantly crave that connection.
Right.
Our bodies crave it. And I challenge anyone to recognize, like, when you go into a room, if you go into a room of complete strangers and you just take a moment and take a deep breath, you'll instinctually start to recognize who you gravitate towards.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because, well, it's like everybody's hanging out in the kitchen and that's the person I want to go be around. It could be the person that's sitting alone on the couch, or it could be this group that's sitting over there. It's like wherever you go, we instinctually have this ability to connect with people that vibrate the same way that we do. So part of our desire for community allows us to recognize those people that vibrate on the same wavelength that we do. And then when we get together, we often find that community has the same ideas, the same passions, the same goals. Mm-hmm. And that community allows us to amplify things, right? It allows us to take those communal ideas, those communal concepts, and build upon them.
Right.
And what happens oftentimes in these type of in arguments or conflicts or war is that people just aren't vibrating on the same wavelength, right? So I think it's absolutely important, and it's so important now in COVID when we are so disconnected, right? Like we think that we're connected because, well, even though I'm quarantining, hopefully I can still FaceTime with someone or I can still text someone, but that removes the vibrational connection that you have with another human being. So as we are all suffering this global trauma, coming out of it, it's going to be more and more important for us to identify spiritually who we connect with and really make it a point to nurture and cultivate those relationships. And again, it's not to say that you can't get that in church, but you have to find out, like, are you aligned with someone? And I can't tell you the number of people that I've spoken with over the years, especially from Single Daddy Daily and Single Parents Daily, whose relationships ended because of religious differences. And I think that right now, if you're a marriage counselor, most marriage counselors, I might be projecting on this one. Like, if you go to them and say, well, I'm a Buddhist and I'm a Hindu, or I'm a Christian and I'm an atheist, they're going to say, don't get married, right?
Right.
Because you're always going to have an expectation that person's going to start to believe what you believe and vice versa. And to try to change someone's belief system, forget about it. Have you ever tried to, it's like politics, right? You just end up shouting at each other.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to kind of go back off of that and as far as the connection and the energetic and the vibrational connection that we have with others, I've always found that so fascinating is if like you walk into a room and you kind of naturally feel drawn to certain people, that always, I don't know, it's just that to me is kind of the proof there where we are all vibrating and energetic in our own unique way. And like, if we can align ourselves with people that amplify our energy, and if we can, I don't know, I feel like energy seeks like energy.
Absolutely.
And I think about this stuff all the time.
Well, and one way that we find that you can amplify your own energy and you can get in touch with that, and that's some of the things that we talk about a lot. And we're going to have a lot of guests that really help us articulate this a lot better than probably we do, is meditation, right? And what is meditation? It's prayer. You can have an ex-husband that says, well, meditation is woo-woo, but what the fuck is prayer? Like, you're taking a moment and you're connecting with something bigger than yourself. Now, if you view that as some guy up on a cloud with a beard and a staff and, angels all around, well, hey, whatever, right? Like, we're not here to say that that's right or wrong. But meditation is really that moment where you're internally, you're shutting off the outside world to internally focus on something that allows you to connect with the entire universe.
Exactly.
So
we're reading a Joe Dispenza book, Supernatural, right now, and it talks all about that. Highly recommend it.
Highly recommend it. And when we get into these meditations, not just 5 minutes sitting in traffic or whatnot, but really get into the process of meditation.
Yeah.
Then I think that we actually kind of open up this idea, this concept of, can we connect to a quantum universe, the quantum realm, and with that, what can we manifest? That's the exciting part. And spiritual abundance is this idea that when we spend the time every single day to focus on that, and we really start to focus on the things that we want to manifest, especially for good, especially for our fellow man, it's amazing what we can accomplish.
Yeah. So I meant to ask you this as well, but what does your spiritual abundance practice look like? What does that look like to you?
Well, a little bit of backstory. So I come from, as I pointed out, a very, very Italian family. And I remember my grandmother, just the quintessential Italian woman, wanted to go to church every single day in a very Italian kind of way, right? It wasn't this Christian American thing where it wasn't that. It was the kind of European, Italian, Catholic, everything's a celebration. It's family, it's drinking wine all the time. But I did get subjected to Sunday school, and they kicked me out for asking all the questions that boiled down to, well, you just have to have faith. I'm like, well, if God is omnipotent and he knows everything, well, isn't the whole fall of man already like preordained? Didn't he know that was going to happen?
I got to interrupt really quickly. Like, I remember sitting in church a few times and just being like, thinking to myself, why don't people raise their hands? Why aren't there questions being asked? I don't understand how this, because it reminds me of class, right? Like, you're in college or, in high school, whatever, you're in class, and it's, you're free to raise your hand and ask questions. I never understood why that wasn't accepted or necessarily just known that it was okay to do that there. Yeah, but anyway, I agree.
If you were in church on Sunday and the priest, the pastor, whatever, said something, and you're like, I call bullshit, you'd be ostracized. And that's exactly what I did at a young age. I'm like, I call bullshit, and they kicked me out.
You were the little shithead.
I was the total little shithead. But I've always been a man of science, and in science, I recognize that faith in God is a gift. And I never want to take that gift away from anyone. And I'm actually, I think that that's something that came from the Dan Brown book, is that, faith is a gift. What I've been blessed with along the way is this recognition that, there is something more out there.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that I've come to really look at the science, and the more that I've come to ask the questions that we all ask, why are we here? Where did we come from? What happens when we die?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how is it that we can be this one, tiny planet in this infinite universe and we not know anything else?
Mm-hmm.
I look at people like Carl Sagan and as these paradigms of hope, men of science who went their entire life poo-pooing religion, only to find spirituality at the end of their lives, this recognition that we are all connected, that we're all part of something bigger than ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's really been this journey of understanding, how does science help us really understand some of the questions that we've been asking since the dawn of time, maybe knowing that we're never going to answer those, but the simple act of that daily meditation of believing that my job here is to help the world,
Mm-hmm.
not for my own benefit, but for everybody else, to make the world a better place, to try to inch us closer to those answers. That really kind of, that gets my butt plug tingling.
The visual.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. It's,
the crystal butt plug.
crystal butt plug. It's an
Yeah,
amethyst.
It's an amethyst.
Yeah.
Naturally.
A natural amethyst or a lab-grown one? It was a Christmas present. I don't know. It's here's one thing. I'm gonna tell you a story, and this is
Okay.
this is one of those ones where people like. Oh, I'm gonna get hate mail on this one.
All right.
So guys, I'm speaking to you specifically. You've all been out at the bar and you're chatting about sports, and then all of a sudden you kind of you start quoting Caddyshack, and then you run out of things to talk about, and so then you get into the stupid guy conversation. And I remember with my two best friends, we had this conversation where it's like, hey, if you could go back in time and get rid of one person in history that would do the most good, who would that be? And my friend to the left of me instantly says Hitler, and I think my other friend says like Mussolini or Genghis Khan or something like that. And I, without hesitation, said Jesus Christ. You could have heard a pin drop in that bar.
Oh, I believe it.
And I'm looking around, I'm like,
I'm not even Christian. I'm already offended.
and I'm like, I'm going to get knifed. And here's the thing. I have no desire to go back in time and remove Jesus Christ. I don't believe that this
Right.
is the Son of God, but he's also God. And that's a philosophical religious debate for a later time.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that Jesus was an incredible man who preached love and connection. And, he was probably someone that we should all aspire to be more like.
Mm-hmm.
But after he died and the religion came out of his life, more people died in his name than any other person in history. I look at the Crusades. I look at, I look at Hitler. I look at all of these people who took that message of love and connection and bastardized it and used it to kill and maim, like the Salem witch trials. I mean, like all of these atrocities that have been carried out in the name of a man who died 2,000 years ago. So do I want to get rid of the message? Absolutely not. If you got rid of him, what would that do? Now, granted, there'd probably be someone else who came along and, Jesus point, 2.0. So I think it's always funny that, when we have conversations like this, it's really difficult to try to merge spirituality and religion for that very reason, right? Spirituality is an ever-evolving belief system that's based off of our own feelings of connectedness and our own desire to do good for the very right reasons, whereas religion, I think, becomes dogmatic in the sense that we do things for all of the wrong reasons, which is life eternal with this person that we don't actually know exists or not.
Mm-hmm.
Again, my beliefs, so I know I'm offending all of you guys out there who have a belief system, but that's not what this is about. It's the recognition that can we take that religious belief, if we have that, and marry that with the science that we know now, using meditation, using connection, using vibrational energy, using the amplification of that vibrational energy to connect with people and create momentum to do really good things in this world?
Mm-hmm.
I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, I mean, and you have a point there. I mean, a lot of people have died for religion or because of religion.
And continue to do so now.
Right. But also kind of being on the other side of that at one point, I've also seen what it does for people too. And I think there's a lot of give and take, and it's complex. It's obviously controversial. But yeah, many people have died because of religion. And who knows? It's also saved a lot of people, right? Some people have.
Okay, I don't think we planned on going here, but let's talk about it, right? Like, because when you bring this up, and look, I mean, religion, this is a funky topic, but Christianity preaches that you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, that you're saved and you can spend life eternal in the kingdom of heaven. Now, how I have a hard time believing that guy in prison who raped or killed or, committed such horrible atrocities can go there and find Jesus and then somehow all things are forgiven, right?
Right.
And that is the problem with, we know that killing another human being is wrong. We don't need a book to tell us that. We know fundamentally that the most horrific thing that we can do to another human being is to end their life. It destroys the fabric that binds us. It destroys the energy that connects us. Do we need a book to do that? No. Now, within that Joe Dispenza book, they really started talking about different vibrational frequencies and what those emotions mean. Love, gratitude, bliss, acceptance. These are all things that have really high vibrational frequencies. Then we start to kind of get further and further down into, greed, lust, apathy, all of these things. So I think instinctually when we look at like the commandments, we know that some of those create those lower vibrational frequencies. But does the acceptance of Jesus automatically forgive the atrocities that I would have committed? And I have a hard time with that one.
I absolutely understand and agree. I know plenty of Christians who have done horrible things, and that's always been something that I've battled with as well. Is it seems like those things are okay because they will be forgiven regardless because of their faith and their faith in God. And that's not something that sat well with me for a while. And I think that was maybe one of the reasons why I had a hard time connecting with it too. I don't know. And so I get it and I see it. You also hear the stories like, oh, I beat my wife, I did all these drugs, I stole money from the bank, blah, blah, blah. And then I found God. And then now I'm I don't want to say now I'm going to heaven and now everything's good. Now I can still continue to do those things. But I do think it is important for people to find something that does keep them accountable. So if it does bring positivity out of a negative situation, I think that is good, because I think that if we can all just be better people every day, I think that amplifies our whole world and the whole universe. I agree. I have many contradicting thoughts about it, because I've been on one side, I've seen a lot of things, and I've also heard a lot of positive stories as well. So I think, I don't know.
It's a challenging topic, to say the least, and it's a difficult one, right? And this is why I think, spirituality or religion, whatever it is, it's a private matter. It really is a private matter. And what we want to do in this podcast, in the Complete Human Journey, in all of these principles that we've uncovered, which in doing so, we've really looked at the high performers of the world in multiple categories, right? In mental fortitude, in physical health, in spiritual abundance, in the planetary connection, which we'll get into in later episodes. But when we look at other people and we follow their best practices, what we find is that spirituality is a very, very personal thing. It manifests in a higher vibrational level that allows them to connect with other people very easily. But most of the time you find that stuff is very, very private. And I mean, I think of, all right, Jehovah's Witness. This one I don't get, right? 144,000 people are admitted to the kingdom of heaven if you believe in if you're a Jehovah's Witness. Why the fuck are you knocking on doors? Like, someone explain that one to me. Like,
are you trying to convince other people to take your spot?
Yeah, I'm like at one point, like, okay, if only 144,000 are getting, are going to go to heaven, don't you think? What if I knock on the door of the next Mother Teresa? Like, she could take my spot,
right?
Like, granted, it's the two biggest religions, or the two biggest businesses on the planet are religion and porn. Let's really think about that. So when people are peddling and they're knocking and they're trying to, they might be doing it under the guise of trying to save people. And I think like the Mormon missionaries that go all over the world, do they do good? Yes, but ultimately, are they just looking for 10% of more people's income? I think so. And Mormon people, if you want to come after me for that one, go for it. You know, you and I have a long-standing issue anyway. But it's, you know, like, what is the point, right? If you're, why wouldn't you lead by example, not lead by sales tactics?
Mm-hmm. And this is tricky and emotional too, because you want to inherently believe that this is all good, and then the intention is good behind these these organized religions. And sometimes it's challenging to believe what really is the motive behind things like tithing or the door knocking and just stuff like that. I mean, I've had so many questions for so long.
Well, and since antiquity, organized religion has always been a challenge, right? You know, again, Salem witch trials, inquisitors that would go into, the Spanish Inquisition, where you'd go into places and you'd kill people because they didn't believe in God.
Right. Like, how is that good?
It's not.
Right. That does not compute. So there's so much polarity within these, and it's just challenging to try and condense it all to, like, okay, is this right or is this not right? Because we've seen it all on both sides. There's a lot of negativity that can come from these. I've also seen positivity. We've also seen so it is challenging. But, to kind of go back is this is a very personal journey for each individual person. So if what you believe helps you in your spiritual journey, and you can give back to the planet, to other people, to the world, and do your best here and feel spiritually fulfilled, I think that's great. Whatever that may be.
Yeah, and I think what we'll share with people coming up in future episodes is what are other people's techniques for doing that, for increasing their vibrational level, for feeling more spiritual, for connecting with the planet more, connecting with other people more. Because again, we're relative infants in this. We've been doing it for a while, but there are other people out there that I think are great educators on this with nothing to sell, nothing to, they might have a book or something, but at the end of the day, it's really how do they pass on skills that allow for the amplification of our planet? Like, what does the future look like?
I was just thinking that.
We've been watching this Mars show, and it looks at like 2045 or 2033 and then 2042 or whatnot. And like, we're talking about colonizing another planet, but we are so small in this universe. There's got to be a chance for us to break past our solar system and get out there and figure out, what's out. Yeah.
Like, what are we a part of? What is out there?
Yeah. And that doesn't happen while we're fighting over stupid shit.
Right. Well, to go off that as well, I mean, even so the show Mars, it's like a documentary with Elon Musk and SpaceX and talking about colonizing Mars and everything. And just the episode that we just watched, they were talking about what does that look like up there when you bring all these communities and people? Like, how do you organize that and make it correct? Because we have a history here on Earth of what we've done and what's come out of that. So how do we take what we've learned here on Earth, and then once we go to Mars or another planet, how do we be better? How do we make it better? And that is a challenge to get people aligned to figure out what that looks like.
Well, and look, we're a capitalistic society, and I think that's one of the things that it talks about is, in the race to get to Mars, ultimately, if we end up establishing a colony there's going to be the commercialization of Mars.
Yeah.
What resources exist there? Is it oil? Is it gold? Is it, whatever? And once the scientists have had their whack at the planet, when do the corporations come in and, when is there like Starbucks Mars? Or,
right.
When does Costco set up shop there? Halliburton. And so it's, we joke a little bit about that, but it's, in the world of spirituality, the ultimate goal is to try to answer the questions that maybe don't have an answer to. And this show and this quest to get off of our planet, which even Bill Nye, the science guy who I love, is just like, we can't even take care of our own planet. We want to go to another planet. We're just going to fuck that one up too.
That's why it kind of worries me. I mean, I'm all about, opening up Mars and colonizing and doing everything there, but I'm nervous.
What about Uranus?
Yeah, I'm sure your butt plug right now is calling. It's we'll see what happens. I mean, I do get nervous, so thinking about what that looks like, because I also don't want to fuck up another planet. We have a history here of what we've done and what that looks like and what damage that's caused, and it makes me nervous to see what that looks like in the future there.
Part of the Complete Human platform has always been, social responsibility. We're trying to, we dropped Enric Sala last week, and I'm sorry, guys, but this is a guy whose whole life's work is to fix the planet on which you all live, and it was one of our least watched episodes.
Yeah.
So screw you all.
Screw you all. Get your priorities straight.
Get your priorities straight. Get some spiritual abundance and stop using single-use plastic. I'm on a,
He's feeling it today.
Yeah.
I think it's the glasses.
It's the glasses.
The glasses. They're just amplifying and enhancing this.
Either that or I should have gone with the smaller butt plug.
For those of you who aren't watching us on YouTube, Evan's wearing these blue blocker glasses right now, and you just look so studious.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Studious and spiritual.
Studious, yeah. So, look, guys, we went all over the map today, and,
Yeah.
and we're sorry. Hopefully, hopefully you got some value out of this one.
Yeah.
Maybe we just took 45 minutes to tell you to meditate.
Maybe. It's obviously more than that, but I think it's a huge part.
Yeah. And this was really a kickoff for us to kind of bring on some people on the show that I think will really help you guys understand what it is that we might have not done the best job of articulating today, but I still think we had some fun.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
Any final words?
I don't think so. I mean, anything else we need to touch on?
No.
Okay. Yeah. That's it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Complete Human Podcast with your host,
Janna Breslin
and Evan DeMarco. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes where we dive deeper into spiritual abundance before we pave the way into planetary connection and what that looks like, and how we hope you will continue to join us on our journey of making the world and ourselves better every single day, one small step at a time. So until then, make sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or whatever platform you get your podcasts on. It's probably iTunes because apparently that's the only way people listen to. Also check us out on YouTube and definitely subscribe there. The video content on this is great. We've got a highlight gag reel coming up that you're not going to want to miss. It's hilarious.
Amen.
Amen. So
is that too soon? Amen. Ha ha ha.
Bye. See you next week, guys.
Bye, guys.